You know what? This year is a pretty damn great year for movies. Hell, this month is a great year for movies. We got a new Mission Impossible in the horror world. We got New Kid on the Block Talk to Me making big waves. One Cut of the Dead is finally getting its French remake released. Disney's Haunted Mansion could be a real sleeper hit. And that's not even mentioning the 1-2 knockout punch of guaranteed mega hits Barbie and Oppenheimer releasing on the same damn day. Which, yes, by the way, I'll definitely be doing a video on. It's such a crazy year for films that a new Indiana Jones was released and people barely seem to notice. I know there are other factors coming into play with the lack of success on this one, like the film's divisive quality and overblown budget, but even still, you've got to admit that's pretty insane. One thing that worries me with all this big news coming at once though, between the hype and excitement for new releases and the heated discussion on why former safe bets are flopping, I can think of a few reasons for The Flash, by the way, don't think that one's too much of a mystery, is that some titles may get left by the wayside. And I feel like that's especially true in the animation world, and even doubly true in the animation straight to streaming world. Animated movies and series are gaining popularity and appreciation with audiences outside of the usual children's market that a strange majority of people pigeonhole them into, but they still struggle more than they probably should to get the truly global level mainstream attention lesser live action efforts do. It's not that they can't do well with audiences, not at all. But look, all I'm saying is, when was the last time you can remember the build-up and release of an animated movie being as ingrained in the cultural consciousness as Barbie is right now? Maybe the first Frozen was the last time we came close, and that was all the way back in 2013. Hell, even the Marvel giant brand recognition of the Spider-Verse films, while both still massive successes, could not surpass their live-action MCU counterparts in box office takings, despite being, and I cannot possibly state this enough, infinitely better movies. And man, it's such a shame that even with massive gains in general audiences, animation still can be a hard sell for some, as we are living in the midst of an animation renaissance right now. The ripple effect that first Spider-Verse movie had on the industry as a whole cannot be understated, because in the years since, we have had some absolute all-timer animated projects. Arcane was phenomenal, Puss in Boots of all things was a borderline masterpiece, Across the Spider-Verse is legitimately perfect to me, and that's just counting the Western efforts. Expand your horizons, and this year gave us Suzume too. It's all just real good right now to be a fan of this medium. Which brings us nicely to the topic of this video, and why I'm making it, Nimona. Now don't get me wrong, this film isn't struggling or anything. In fact, it's been quite the hit for Netflix, and currently at this time of writing sits at number 3 on their top 10 list. But like, let's be honest, that means almost nothing. You know what else is in Netflix's top 10 right now? Sniper Assassin's End is at 6. The 8th film in some garbo military thriller series that's a dime a dozen that went straight to TV with its very first sequel and has never once even sniffed a limited cinema release or any major star power since. The kind of thing that if it had a theatrical run would probably take about 30 quid now and would have went straight to DVD just in time to cash in on kids not knowing what to get their dad for Father's Day 10 years ago. You know what's above Nimona right now? Sitting at number 1? The Outlaws. That is a film that I promise you no one is going to ever mention again in their lives, including the cast and crew, in like 2 weeks. A total memory hole of a movie. So yeah, Nimona is doing well for the platform it is on, sure. It's got a bunch of great reviews, and that's grand. But I'm here to say that for this film, I don't think even that's enough. I'm glad it's getting some attention, of course, but this should be a film people are like talking about. I mean like really talking. The way Spider-Verse trends on Twitter with like thousands of pieces of fan art for months after release. The way I'm sure people will make memes about Barbie for years once it's out. Because look, Nimona isn't just a fun animated movie, it is genuinely one of the year's best. It's incredible. And I just worry that because it's animated and because it's a straight streaming title, it might get a little bit lost over time. And I've good reason to think that too. Because well, I realize this is a little anecdotal and maybe this is just my personal experience, but most people I've mentioned it to have already forgotten The Sea Beast, which was Netflix's biggest and most critically acclaimed animated title ever. A film that actually even has a sequel in development. I'll often tell people I'm excited for the sequel sometimes, and I get a blank stare and what's that? Sometimes even from people who I know have watched the first movie. And I'm not sure why that is, but I just know that I don't want that for Nimona, because Nimona is a film I expected to enjoy that still managed to literally shock me with how good it was. And I want to make the case for why, if you haven't seen it already, that you really, really should. Adapted from the 2015 graphic novel of the same name by N.D. Stevenson, Nimona follows the story of Ballister Boldheart, voiced by Riz Ahmed, a knight from a working-class background who, on the day he is to be the first commoner to receive a knighthood, is framed for a murder he didn't commit. Loathed and on the run, he is eventually approached by the titular Nimona, voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz, a mischievous shapeshifter and societal outcast looking to be the sidekick to a bad guy as an avenue to take out her frustrations against the institutions and attitudes that saw her pushed aside. Ballister, of course, is in fact not actually a villain, and the two butt heads in their approach to clearing his name, but find a mutual benefit in each other's aid. Nimona in getting potential avenues to stick it to the man, and Ballister in hopefully finding an avenue to proving his innocence. Naturally, throughout this adventure, we see a friendship begin to develop, but not without the several roadblocks of huge ideological differences, cultural ostracization, and a massive conspiracy to overcome, all that evolve and unfold in incredibly creative, thematically rich, and compelling ways. There's a lot of things to celebrate here that make this film worth supporting. Some of them start before the movie even does. I haven't mentioned it yet as there was no natural time to bring it up, but it's truly incredible how good this film is in 2023 when you consider it originally started in development under Blue Sky Studios, the guys responsible for Ice Age, in 2015 before that company was acquired by Disney after they bought up 21st Century Fox, where Nimona immediately received pushback from the higher-ups who took issue with its LGBTQ+ themes, causing it to be delayed, presumably to be reworked multiple times before it got cancelled entirely with Blue Sky's closure in 2021. Luckily for everyone, Annapurna Pictures managed to revive the project in 2022 and finish production on it, and in a manner where the film was not forced to compromise on its original artistic vision and themes to appease a corporate overlord brand image, because this film is thankfully still very gay. Even before we get into how good the movie was, a film that got squeezed out under the iron thumb of one of Hollywood's biggest monopolies, only to lay low for a little while and then rise like a phoenix from the ashes and overthrow that company's borderline censorship of its ideas, something that coincidentally lines up quite thematically with the movie's own concepts, is already something we should all make a concerted effort to watch in a loud vocal show of support that says, yeah, more of that please. But it just so happens that, as a bonus, the film is also fantastic regardless of this. Right off the bat, the obvious first thing you'll notice is the visuals. This film is an absolute feast for the eyes. It's mad to me that it had such a turbulent behind the scenes with the studios switching and the multiple delays and it being in development since 2015, as absolutely none of that shows in the final picture. It's vivid with color and dynamism. You've got these incredibly well-designed and expressive characters that bounce with a palpable energy through this wonderfully realized quasi-sci-fi medieval world that not only doubles as a visually engaging backdrop, but also a wholly unique one. It's a great middle ground of adapting the source material in a way that stays true to the charming art style of the original illustrations, but that also brings something new to the table that fully pushes the strengths of its new format. The creativity on display is astonishing, with major set pieces making full use of the scope and the uniqueness of these designs and this fantastic world, as Nimona crashes and shapeshifts through the environment with well-defined framing, composition, and action direction that always makes what's unfolding clear and easy to follow despite its high level of freneticism. These moments aren't just a bit of fun visual flair either, and all of the big set pieces find beats within the beatdowns to deliver jokes, emotional hits, or plot developments that seamlessly weave into the on-screen chaos. The film always gives you reason to be invested, establishing right from the opening fun, likable heroes, in part through animation, but also thanks to the fantastic performances, especially from the two leads. Riz Ahmed plays Ballister with a perfect balance of nobility and a kind of lost and scared little boy quality that makes you want to root for him. And Chloe Grace Moretz as Nimona, oh my god, she is the most lovable little dickhead. It's such a perfect marriage of voice and animation in the kind of way we haven't really seen since Robin Williams as the genie. The characterization of her through both voice performance and movement as just this boundless ball of energy, anarchy, and out-and-out chaos is reminiscent of Power from Chainsaw Man, for those of you familiar with that. Just this absolute shit-stirrer energy that's somehow so magnetic that the obnoxiousness only aids in your adoration of her. She's just brilliant. You get so invested in these two that almost everything with them lands. Every joke is funny, every acknowledgement of friendship is heartwarmingly earned, and every emotional punch hits you like a truck. I remember when I first watched the trailer for this, I thought, that looks cute and not much more. Hell, I almost skipped it. But man, am I so glad I didn't, because when this movie hit me, it hit me hard. There is some stuff that happens in this thing that is so emotionally rich to the stories of these characters that I found it legitimately impossible to not get swept up in it all. These characters are fun and funny and look cool, but there's an undercurrent of relatable sadness and tragedy to each of them. And seeing these two total polar opposites find some level of common ground and love in that undercurrent makes for a genuinely beautiful and moving story. Something that I found really incredible about the film as well, especially for a children's animation, is how legitimately anti-authoritarian it is. It's not uncommon for a kids' movie to challenge structures of authority, but usually these authoritative threats come from a teacher figure like Miss Trunchbull in Matilda, or a strict parent like Triton in The Little Mermaid, or just a generally authoritative adult who stands in as a representative abstraction of the forces at play keeping children down in some way, like the warden in Holes. But in Nimona, they take it a step further. The true antagonistic force at play for the heroes to overcome here isn't simply one evil figure. Although the film does eventually give us an antagonist to root against, they alone are not really the main problem. Rather, it's the institutions they exist in, the systems of oppression that create these hostile environments for people like Nimona, the ideologies that both celebrate Ballister for being the first commoner to be knighted, but also despise him for it. Nimona takes aim with its thematic discussions specifically at exploring the establishment. We see communicated throughout the film in really clear and articulate yet seamlessly intelligent ways how power dynamics can manipulate narratives, how things like the media come into play in determining the beliefs of a populace, how broken systems cannot be healed and repaired by one good faith actor in a sea of corruption, but must be demolished from the outside. And of course, this being the driving force of the narrative obstacles only makes the main characters and their own arcs more rich in return. Ballister being someone who seemingly came close to being in a position of celebrated power within these systems, only to have those systems reject him violently at the last hurdle, creates a compelling inner conflict as he wrestles with this battling dual belief of having absolute faith in an institution that he now also feels the full aggressive force of. Something that not only creates challenges for him on an internal level, but also brings into dispute his relationship with his boyfriend Ambrosius, who, as a descendant of nobility, still very much benefits from the structures now seeking to destroy Ballister. And Nimona's status as both an ostracized shapeshifter figure with huge parallels to the non-binary community, as well as her ideological placement as what is pretty much a straight out-and-out anarchist character, allows her to be the perfect heroic foe to such abstract antagonistic forces. There's an ideology that hates her without even understanding her, that paints her as the villain and is so powerful at doing so that in the opening sections of the film, even she believes that to be true, self-identifying, relating more to, and labeling herself as one of the bad guys. Broken down to its core, it's anti-establishment versus the establishment. The thematic richness is baked into the very essence of the character and setting, and these ideas are explored with a real level of both nuance and accessibility. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked that not only were they able to express these concepts with such excellent articulation, but also that they were even allowed to do so in a children's movie like this. It's really no wonder that Disney hated this thing, because it's wild. I never do top 10 lists for the year, but if I did, unless this year is somehow full of a bunch of surprises that just absolutely blow my nips off that I don't see coming, I can almost guarantee that Nimona would be right in there. You all need to see it. It's not just a great animated movie. It's not just a great kids movie. It's not just a great movie to put on because it's free for you to access there on streaming. It's just a great movie. And the kind of thing I would absolutely love to see more of. So naturally, if you take anything away from this video, it's that animation is great and should be supported. It's that unique movies are great and should be supported. But above all else, it's just that you should really watch Nimona. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Please make sure to keep an eye on the channel as I have some truly wild stuff coming up on here soon. I can't talk about it just now, but it is, oh my god, so exciting. So yeah, if you aren't already, please make sure you're subscribed to my Only Dans by hitting that red subscribe button below and knocking the bell so you don't miss the big new thing. And as always, I just want to give a big thanks to all my patrons. This video, I'd like to give a special shout out to Anasi Skadlock, the Duchess, and Horrence. And a big thank you to all of my other patrons you're seeing on screen right now. If you'd like to join these lovely folks as well as access a bunch of exclusive vids, a Patreon Discord, and other fun things, please make sure to check out my Patreon in the description box below. Until next time.